Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask you to kindly take your seats, as they always say in the cinema, the show is about to commence. The first thing I have to say is September must be Dubai. Cedar-IBSi have been running a series of events around the world this year across 3 continents. So I'm never quite sure where I am. It's a ballroom. It could be a ballroom anywhere. But it's September, it's digital banking, payments and lending, it's Dubai. Thank you very much for attending, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first thing I will say. My name is Robin Amlo. I'm the managing editor of IBS Intelligence, which is something that always worried me, being told I was in charge of intelligence, but anyway. So, we are about to begin, and I'm not going to ramble on because I'm not the expert. There are experts in the room from Cedar, there are experts in the room from banks and financial technology companies from around the region and around the world. So I think I should shut up and we should hear from them. And the first person we're going to hear from to welcome you to this event is my boss, Sanjiv Anand, chairman of the Cedar Group. Sanjiv.
Morning, everybody. I know this is a very busy city, and I know it takes a bit of effort to get away from work and get here in the morning. So thank you all first for coming. I was reflecting yesterday. I think we've had an office in Dubai since 1999. And back then, I don't think most of what you see around us existed. So it's been quite a transformation over the last 20 years. And I think we've been happy to be part to it, especially with the financial services sector. And I think if I just go back to the 99-2000 time frame and where we are today, there's obviously been significant transformation in the sector. And I think some of the topics that we're going to talk about today are obviously more relevant in today's context than it was then. But I think it'll be a good idea to take people back somewhat in history to see where we started and where we are today, right? So rather than just ramble on, what I'll do is just share a few data points with you, all of you in the room today. It gives you a bit of perspective of what was here and where we are now. And I think we're going to leave the rest of the insights to the panels and the speakers, who are probably a lot more smarter of the topic than I am here. So I'm just going to run a few comments today on this. So I think the 3 themes that we have today, which is digital banking, payments, and lending, I think these are the most disruptive themes that are currently running in the banking sector or the financial services sector. And I think it's the one reason that we pulled it all together rather than splitting it all up, right? I think that's the first thing I wanted to say. Obviously, as I said, if you go back over the years on the banking side, the branch network came down from 587 to 494. And I think that's a very strong indicator of the impact that digital is having, not only on the consumer side, but also outside the consumer side. I mean, a few years ago, I don't know if there are any Mashrak people in the room, but I remember when they initially thought of the idea to take their branch network down, I think which was 54 or something like that, down to something around 8 to 10 right now. I think there was a bit of shock and awe on that decision. But, if you look at Mashrak's numbers or look at performance, they've obviously been able to deliver on what they wanted to deliver in spite of having a smaller footprint, right? And so we are starting to see that degrowth on the network side, which is reflecting the growth on the digital side. On payments, it was more B2C. It's now becoming more B2B for both. And again, a good reflection of that is the degrowth of cash transactions, right? Which is down, degrowing at 8%, non-cash is growing at 16%. That again starts to show you that, we're starting to see the transformation that we're all talking about and expecting. Obviously, digital lending is happening. I think we've done a few events over the last few years, as Robin was saying. And in recent conferences we've done, it's sometimes obvious to us that people who are doing digital payments ultimately want to do some kind of digital lending, because that's where the margins tend to be. right? So these kind of start to go hand in hand at some point. It obviously depends geography to geography. So we're seeing, obviously, digital lending. This is being seen more lenses to the data and credit bureaus, AI-driven analytics, the fintech ecosystem. These are the emerging focus areas. Now, what's happened in the UAE since 1999 is the asset book in 99 used to be 69 billion. It's about $1 trillion right now. That's 15x. And I think that's what's created an opportunity for all the banks in the UAE, in the region, and obviously all the ecosystem around it, yeah. The branch network, as we talked about, has gone from 365. It's now at 494 since 99, but last year it's come down from 587. The FS contribution to GDP, it was always generally strong, right? It was obviously a much smaller GDP back then, but it's still gone from about 8.2 to 9.5, right? So the financial services sector, obviously, is the key sector, and that's true in many, many countries. You can't have a strong economy without a strong financial services sector, yeah. If we look at the journey over the last 20 years, I mean, it started really in the 90s with back office automation. In the 2000s, it was more about universal banking. Now there's obviously a focus on digital for both corporate and retail, and new ages of AI self-service. And, you know, what is the future, right? I mean, I remember I was asked a few years ago this question, and, you know, I strongly believed at that point that it's going to be a marketplace. And now I'm starting to see terms like banking as a service and so on and so forth, right? So I think it ultimately will end up somewhere in that direction. And what are the 3 or 4 focus areas, I guess, from a digital world perspective that the banks are focusing on? One is, of course, customer experience and innovation. I think this has always been true, even when things were not so digital. We've always chased that rainbow, so to speak. Cyber and data security, obviously, because there's more and more data that's obviously on the system online. The collaboration with fintechs, and I think this is a very interesting topic. I know there are a number of fintechs and banking technology companies in the room. The word fintech is very broadly used. Very often the connotation is more B2C, but the world is obviously full of B2B and B2C fintechs. You do see valuations go up and down all the time, and that sometimes creates concern for the sector. But from an overall perspective, you know, obviously fintechs have become a key aspect of the ecosystem and business model going forward. And so I think that's obviously a critical part of the future. And lastly, of course, compliance and controls, right? So I think in a nutshell, I think where we are today is a pretty strong journey over the last 10 to 15 years. With AI, and I was in New York last week, I think the conversation is all about AI. And actually, to a certain extent, the potential risk it creates, because it can be also used in unfortunate ways. But I think what starts to happen going forward is really a hockey stick moment for the industry because of all the things that are happening in it and outside it, and the technologies that are coming in, yeah. So just a set of brief comments. What I want to do is hand back to Robin now. I hope we have a good morning here. The panel will run well. We'll try to keep them on time. Sorry we started a few minutes late here, but I was told that if we run 10 to 15 minutes late in Dubai, it's okay. So we're pretty much still on time, yeah. But I'll hand back to Robin, and I wish everybody well for the day, and we'll talk towards the end of the afternoon, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.